an interview process. And the interview for students will usually be structured around three things. One is going to be questions about your study. The other one will be questions about the university you are going to and the country you are going to. Like, why did you choose that country? Why that specific university? What do you know about the university? What faculty members do you know in the university? How are you going to finance your study in that university? Now, again, this is the visa officer trying to probe into the kind of documents you submitted. Remember, at the point of the interview, they have access to all the things you have submitted to them already. And that access to the things you have submitted to them already, they are going to be judging your statements against those things. Right? They're going to be judging your statements against those things that you have submitted. Now, about your study, you should be able to say something about the course you are going to study, especially if that course you're going to study is not the same as your previous study. So you have done mechanical engineering, for instance, in your bachelor's, and you're now going to do section where they have to ask you, please be prepared to answer these kind of questions. The other one will be general questions, questions about your background. You see, because they are trying to investigate into you, probe into who you are to understand all these claims you are making, that you are this, that you are that. Are you really the person you claim to be? So they are going to probe into those kind of questions. And then the place you are going to, do you have any family member? Do you have any friends in the country? What do you know about the country? Now, each of these questions, when you begin to answer them, you have to be strategic, and you have to also carry your previous answer in mind. So if I'm going to a country and I don't have any family member in that country and I don't have any friend in that country, the question becomes, and I am asked, do I know somebody there? Some persons will just say, no, I don't. That's not the perfect answer to a visa officer. If you say you don't know anybody, then what triggered you're able to that you might be able to explore at the end of your study? But regardless, even if you are taking that, you are also interested in doing this and doing this and doing this for your country. The main goal of your going to the country is to advance yourself and to improve your capacity. It's not necessarily you going to do the JAPA thing. Right? JAPA is part of it, but the JAPA should be in the background when you go to your visa interview. That's the main point of this conversation. Now, the agents, should you use an agent or should you not use an agent for your visa application? A lot of people want to use agents, but there are advantages and there are disadvantages. I personally don't like to use agencies for some specific reasons. And when you use an agent, for instance, the agent brings some level of expertise. They save you time because you're able to focus on other things. But again, what exactly are you focusing on that will deny you the time to do your visa application? The agencies would claim usually that they have increased success rates, and many people will think that the agencies are in direct conversation with the visa. Meanwhile, the visa officer is somewhere in Ghana or somewhere in the UK or somewhere in the US, and the agent is sitting with you in your country. So the agent actually does not have a control over the visa officer. This is something you need to know. Then they say that the agent will reduce your stress, but again, if you are going to wait for 20 days, you still have to wait for 20 days. Not getting stressed is a function of your inside and not a function of the agent. You need to just tell yourself that, you've done your part. Excuse me. You've done your part, you trust in God, and then you take off the stress of the tension of waiting. What are the disadvantages? And it's not just about paying the money. Most times you pay the money and you still have to be the one supplying the information they need. The information you could have just filled directly, you're supplying it to the agents to be able to fill them. Now, the other disadvantage is that there are increased chances of error. As much as the agent has expertise, as much as he knows these things, the agent sometimes can make mistakes in your name. If your name is as long as mine, there is a very big chance that a mistake will be made in that name. Either in the spelling, missing one alphabet, or missing the other alphabet, there is a big chance. There is a bigger chance that a mistake will be made when an agent is writing your name than there is that a mistake will be made when you are writing your name. There have been cases where somebody goes to apply for a visa and the agent makes a mistake, and then of course the agent, you have paid him means you have paid him. A failure to get a visa is a delay on your part, it's not a delay on the agent's part, and all of that. then it denies of learning. If I have not been applying for visas by myself, I won't know the things I know today. I will not be able to hold this session with you. But because I've done this over and over, different situations, then I know it and I can.
So, okay, Mr. Chukwemeka is back. Over to you, sir. Sorry for the break.
Sorry, I didn't even know that I had disconnected. Please, where did I drop off?
Hello, Mr. Augustine. Over
Yeah,
to you, please.
yes, please. I don't know where I dropped off. Did
Is
everybody
he there?
follow till this slide?
Oh, yes, I can see him.
Yeah, did
Hello,
everybody
sir.
follow
Please, you
till
can
this
unmute
slide?
yourself and continue.
Okay. Just a moment. It looks like something is not going
All
on.
right. While waiting for Mr. Augustine,
Hello. Yes.
we last week we looked at CVs, how you can
Hello.
write, being able to put up your CV and your statement of purpose. So the next will be your visa appearance before the embassy. So
Hello,
please
Pastor. Can you
pay
hear me?
rapt attention to what our brother is saying. There are some salient points I've picked from the presentation, and I'm sure any of us that is willing to travel to further your studies outside the country or maybe get a new job outside.
Hello, Pastor. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. My apologies. I didn't even know where we dropped off. Where did we drop off, please?
Yeah, you were talking about the disadvantages of visa agent where they can miss a long name.
Okay,
I
okay,
think
okay,
somewhere
okay.
there.
All right. So we're not very far off. So the if you're applying for visa and you decide to use an agent, like my name, if you look at the flyer, for instance, you will find that the person who designed the flyer missed just one word or one alphabet in the spelling of my name. Because, and I don't blame people when they misspell my name because the name is too long, especially if the person who is spelling the name is not from my tribe. For instance, if somebody from maybe the western part of Nigeria or the northern part of Nigeria is spelling my name, there is a big tendency that there will be an error somewhere in the name. In fact, the point where I gave up on the agencies or using agencies for visa application was in 2016. I was going to do my visa application to study in Canada at the time. And when I spoke to the agents, the person was trying to offer me a service and telling me that, well, it's because I'm from this particular place and charging me a lot of money. And then in the same process, telling me that I have to supply all the information. So the question within my mind was, if I'm going to sit with you and supply you information about my date of birth, my age, my school, the name of my institution, my admission number, and all of this, why don't I just sit on my own and fill this form myself online? And then I decided to do it by myself. If you don't do it by yourself, you will not be able to learn. And that is why it is a disadvantage of using the agencies. If you do use an agent, this is not saying that you must not use an agent for anything. In fact, when I was coming to the UK, my application was done by an agent because I won a scholarship from the PTDF, and the PTDF had said they have like an agent that is they use normally for applying for visas for their students. So it was a case of submit your information, the agent takes it up from there, you show up to do your biometrics, and then you are gone. There are those kind of special situations. But if PTDF was not paying that extra cost to bring in an agent, I wouldn't go submit my money to an agent to be able to do that. I need to go through that process. I like to go through the process myself and learn. But I don't like to go through the process without arming myself with sufficient information. And that's why we started by saying that the first stage is information gathering. The additional considerations will be the complexity. If it's a complex visa application system, please spend more time learning about it. Spend time speaking to people who have gone through that, and it's easy. If you go to LinkedIn at any time and you're going to any country, you can just type graduate student or maybe PhD student, select that country where the person is, and you will have a long, or the country you are intending to go to, you have a long list of students from your country who are there, or students from other countries who are there, that you can speak to. And then you can speak to those people, learn one or two things about the visa application process, learn one or two things about the specific visa interview questions that are asked by by that particular country, and that's the way you will be improving yourself. Now, the level of your confidence it depends. If you Some people have low self-confidence in general, but I believe that after this event, your level of confidence in your visa application should increase. And not just visa application, for most other things you can do it. You can do most of the things, especially with Christ who strengthens you. If you are going to do it, please just build up your confidence. All the other people who are doing it are just humans. Even the agent is just a human. The only difference is the person spent time to learn, and you can spend that time to learn if you plan ahead. If you're going to travel by September, or you're going to apply for a visa by September, start planning today. you know and that planning is a key component of most of the things we have to do in life as people determined to succeed. Also consider your budget. If you take out that 200,000 to give to an agent, how will it impact your ticket money? That's something you need to think about. Then I would now want to look at something with us. So this is visa gov.uk. Gov.uk is a website, and that's the main website for visa applications in the UK. We don't have all the time to go through the details of what the website is, but I want to show us something, and that should be something that will be of use to us. So if you go to gov.uk, right, this is just an example of how to find detailed information about a visa application and all that. So I don't know if we can see my screen just now. Let me see. All right, so this is gov.uk. So when you log into this particular website, you will see all of this. You see citizenship and living in the UK, and this is where your visa application will be. This is more useful to those coming to the UK. If you are going to the US, there will be a different website. To Hungary, to Netherlands, to Australia, they will all have their own different websites. So this place, this is British citizen, this is charity and volunteering, living in the UK, and all that. So you go through all of these, and no, this is not where we are going to. So where is it? Employee immigration. So where you are going to go to if you are looking for immigration or traveling to the UK for visa, you have to go to visas and immigration. Now, this is work in the UK for those who are looking for work visa. This is family in the UK for those who have partners and dependents trying to move over to the UK to join them. This is study in the UK. If you are coming to the UK and you are bringing a dependent, for instance, that dependent is still going to come under this section of study in the UK. This family in the UK is for maybe like people who are doing experienced professionals and all that. So let's assume that we go to this study in the UK, and we come down to this place. So you have student visa, you have child student visa, you have study English in the UK visa. This is a short-term visit visa and all that. But the standard visa is going to be student visa. And then you have all this information. Now, I want to show us something, and this is why you need to, when you come to visa application, take your information from the right source. You see, I'm not quoting figures off my head. I'm not telling you that if you're coming to the UK today, you need this amount of money, because that amount of money can change in real time, especially in the UK. The immigration regulations change really fast. So if you are coming to the UK as a student and you are self-funded, or even if you have a scholarship, this is a website you need to get yourself familiarized with. If you're going to the US, find their own website, check it through and understand it. So this is, it goes down here, overview, all of that and all of that, how long you want to stay, your fees, the cost of your fee. Then if you're applying for, this is the cost of your visa. If you're applying for a student visa from outside the UK, the cost of that visa application itself is £490. If you're applying from within the UK, if you are to extend your visa or to switch it, this is also the same. If you have a child who is planning to come and live with you, that person is called your dependent or your wife or your husband. In the UK at the moment, the only people who can bring dependents are people on research-based studies. It could be a master's degree by research or a PhD or anything upwards from there. You can bring your children, you can bring all of that. Then, how much money do you need as a student as evidence that you have the money, or that you will be able to take care of yourself? In this place, you see money you need. You click on that and you see you must have enough money to do this, to pay for this, and then it says you need enough money to pay for your course for 1 academic year, up to 9 months. The amount you need to pay will be on your confirmation of acceptance. That's scarce. This is something that comes after your admission letter. If you have lived in the UK with a valid visa for 12 months, this does not apply to you then. Now, if you have the money you need to be able to support yourself, for coming to the UK, you need at least £1,334 per month for up to 9 months if you will stay in London. And then you need £1,023 per month for 9 months. So you multiply this by 9 months and then add it to the cost of the cost of your tuition. That is what your proof of funds should show to the people as a minimum. Then the other cost that is associated with your visa application will be what is called your health insurance. It's not specified here, but if you want to go through that, if you follow this particular website, act as if you are about to start a visa application. It's going to show you a place that you can enter the details of the day you are coming to the UK and all of that, the length of time you're going to stay, and then it will calculate the amount of money you need to pay as health insurance. I believe most of the other countries will follow a similar sequence, and this is just a walkthrough of the website. If you're coming to the UK, please, this website should be your friend, and any information you find on gov.uk is valid information. That's the most authentic information when it comes to visa application. Any questions, please? Let us talk about your questions before I say some other things. We are shooting above time already. Ask me your questions, and let's move on.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. It's such an insightful session. We've had series of questions here, but I first want to start with my own question
Okay.
before taking few questions that we have here. Please, if you have your question, you can either raise your hands or drop your question on the chat box. I think that's the basic two mediums you have for asking question. First, raise your hands, or you drop your question on the chat box. Pastor, I want to ask you first, for someone that is seeking admission in countries like the Russia, which does not speak English, the language disparity, how can an applicant navigate that? Please just respond in 1-2 minutes, then I take other questions as they come. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so if you are going to Russia, for instance, as a visa applicant and you don't know the language, there is going to be a section that lets you. It depends. If your course is going to be an English language, an English taught course, then you don't need a proof of Russian language to show, to the visa officer. And most of these websites will have an interpretation section. So if you are doing your website, if you go to the website, they can have an English version of the site in many cases, so you can use that English version and run your application through. But if they don't have the English version, then you might want to speak to somebody who understands that language. But in most cases, they'll have an English version on their website. And if your course is English, you don't need to show proof of English. If the course is if your course is in English, you don't need to show proof of knowledge of Russian language. If the course is going to be Russian, then you either need to show that you know Russian language to some extent, or that you are willing to take a pre-study course in Russian language. So they call it preparatory course in Russian language. You take it for like 6 to 8 months. You learn the basics of the Russian language to a point where you can launch out on your study.
All right. The second question is, I have been getting a lot of job interview invites from the UK and US based on my profession, but they don't offer visa sponsorship, making the interview unsuccessful. Please, can you help with sites and vacancies offering visa sponsorship, and how can I be successful? How can I be a successful candidate?
Okay, so the visa sponsorship is a very key part, especially for people who are coming as to work. Visa sponsorship is what supports you, gives you the right to come in, and shows the embassy that this company is really interested in you. But many companies might not be willing to do that, and the reason they might not be willing to do that is it costs them money, and if they're able to find a local talent, they will not sponsor you, right? But what you can do is look at the bigger companies in your firm or in your industry. If you are from the IT firm, look at the bigger IT companies. If you are in the oil and gas, look at the bigger oil and gas companies. I know a friend who got sponsored from Nigeria to work for BP here. I know of somebody else who got sponsored to come work in tech. I know another man, the husband of a woman I know, that got sponsored to come work in tech as well in the UK. So they do it, and the I can't recommend any specific website at the moment other than finding the websites of those big companies in your field, because most of the recruiters, they are recruiting for contract positions. Even for those of us who are within the UK here, you see the recruiters sending out most of these job information, but they are mostly going to be on contract, and contract positions are usually not sponsored. It has to be a a permanent position, and those permanent positions are easier to get from the big companies. So target the big industries or the big companies in your industry.
All right. Another question here goes: I really would love a course in medicine and surgery outside. That's referring to traveling outside the country. But access to scholarships is really important. Please, what should I do? This coming from Abasek and Denny.
Okay, so the thing is this. First of all, if you are looking for a scholarship, your first starting point, like I always say, is identify the countries you are interested in, and then identify the schools in that country that you are interested in. Very often, there will be a lot of information about scholarships on the websites of those institutions. Even if you come to the website of my school, for instance, even you will find information about the PTDF scholarship, even though PTDF is not, the funding of PTDF is not coming from the school, but because the PTDF is sending people to the school on scholarship, they still put it up there on their website. Now, for medical students, one of the scholarships I know that can take medical students from Nigeria to outside of the country is the Bilateral Educational Agreement Scholarship, BEA. Is sponsored by the federal government of Nigeria through the Federal Scholarship Board, and it's a yearly scholarship that happens every time. That's the scholarship that funded my bachelor's and my master's degree. So it can take you to either Russia, to Hungary, and a host of other countries. But there is an advantage in going to Hungary, even though it's more competitive, because in Hungary you can study in English under the bilateral educational agreement. If you go to most of the other countries, you have to take the study in their local language. But there are some other scholarships that do not support the medical students. For instance, if you are going to study, if you are applying for the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship, which is a very popular, very nice scholarship, you may not see medical students being supported under it. And it's a good scholarship that supports young Africans, for bachelor's degrees and all that. The other thing is with medicine and law, studying them abroad in some countries, you can't do a straight entry into bachelor's degree in medicine in some countries. You have to do like a different course, maybe anatomy, or maybe microbiology, some of those kind of related courses. You must go through one of those related courses first before you can now come back to medicine, which makes it a bit more complicated when you say you are looking for a scholarship to go study medicine outside of the country. But in the UK, you can do it as direct, you can directly enter from your secondary school. I think in Canada and in the US, you have to do a different course, a related course first, before you can go study medicine either in Canada or in the US, or even law in Canada or in the US. So these are some of the considerations you must have. But the first thing is go to the website of that institution, and if this question is coming from a Nigerian, pay attention to the website of Federal Scholarship Board of Nigeria. They're going to always advertise their scholarship towards the end of the year. You want to also apply for it. The requirements are a bit of tight, but just have a look at it and then give it a go.
All right, sir. The last question here is, which actually was the first from Victor Emmanuel, says, is it advisable to laminate your documents and bring your passport upon going to other countries? How many months interval is advisable, sir? He's asking because most people do love or in the habit of laminating their document. Is it advisable to laminate? Is there any repercussion to that? And he's also asking, does your passport upon going to other countries and bring your passport upon going to other countries, how many months interval is advisable?
Okay, so my WAEC certificate unfortunately is laminated, but fortunately I think it's not laminated in a way that I can't pull out the lamination without harming the document. If you must laminate your documents, your certificates, they should laminate them on the edges and not throughout the body of the document. Lamination is in two forms. There's the one you will do, and if you pull out that lamination, you will damage the document. Avoid that by all means. The reason you want to avoid that by all means is because there will come a time, or there could come a time, when you need a particular kind of authorization on that certificate, legalization on that certificate. So if you're going to some countries, for instance, they might ask you to go and do what is called an apostille, or to do what is called, to do a legalization, where for instance the Ministry of Education places a stamp on your document to show that this is actually an original document, or this is coming from this country, is authentic, is released from the Ministry of Education of Nigeria or from Ghana, or for Ministry of Education of Cameroon. You need to have your document in such format where you can bring that document out, and if there is need for an additional stamp, that stamp should be able to go in on it. So if you must laminate by the edges, so that if you need to open it up, you just cut off that laminated side, and then bring out the document, do what you need to do, and if you need to relaminate, you relaminate on the edges. My degree certificate is not laminated, my transcript is not laminated, my master's is not laminated, and all the other certificates and certifications that I have after secondary school are not laminated. Now, for the visa and the passport, I think if I get the question correctly, it's a question of how much validity should you have on your passport before applying for visa. Ideally, if your passport is within 2 years, you should be fine for most of the countries, but it's best to specifically look at the details of the specific country and see what they require. Because again, it's not just about having 2 years on the passport. If you have 2 years on the passport and all the pages of the passport have been stamped with visa, then the country will still not consider it as valid. But again, if the question is from the angle of when should you start planning to get your passport, I would say if you plan to travel by next year, this is the right time to start applying for your passport if you are a Nigerian, because there could be delays, there could be time taken between that period you apply and when you eventually get the passport, especially if you want to do, as we said, go through the immigration portal and apply by yourself, which is what I love to do. But if you, and again, the other reason you need to have your passport as early as possible is the fact that you can't even secure admission without an international passport. There is no school abroad that will give you admission without an international passport, because they need your details, and those details, the only trusted details they need from you or they will accept from you, will have to come from your international passport. They want to be sure that the person they are dealing with is the right person, and you show that through your international passport. So
All
if
right,
you
the
are
very
planning
last.
next year,
Okay.
start this year.
Okay, sorry, sir, for cutting in. The very last question from a Udo. Okay, I have gotten your response from. Okay, yeah, that's not the last question. I think I scrolled that. Can someone have a kind of scholarship that can be funded by a school overseas, including sponsors of visa application? Okay, I think his question is all right. Okay. I think he said he has already gotten the response.
Okay.
Yeah, he has already gotten the response. Thanks so much. So please drop your feedback on the chat. I want to appreciate our pastor, our tutor, our facilitator, Engineer Chukwemeka Augustine. He's been so wonderful. I mean, this is what we pay so much money to hear. and listen to, but this has come to us free of charge. And taking time, his time, precious time to develop the slides. And he's a family man with, he has a family, and spending this time with us. I mean, Sir God will really bless you. And the key highlight I can share with us is to tell us, please try and check the federal government scholarship board website. Please try as much as possible to check on that their website and find out what is happening, what's new, any update, and that will really be of help to you, mostly for some of us that are intending to travel outside. I really want to appreciate each and every one of us that have joined tonight's session. For the month of June, it was tagged month of career development and growth. And on the 7th of June, we started with the prayer summit. Then on the 8th of June, we fired our first session tagged Harnessing Social Media for Jobs and Scholarship Opportunities. On the 15th of June, we had Crafting a Winning CV and Statement of Purpose. Today, the 22nd June, we've looked at visa application and interviews, getting it right. The Young Professionals Forum tomorrow will be having Prisons Ministry that will be visiting the inmates at the Nigerian Correctional Center by 10 p.m. Then on the 23rd, that's sorry, it's not going to be tomorrow again. We're going to shift the last class. We were supposed to have the master class on career development. A new date will be shared on our social media platform. I really want to appreciate each and every one of us who took time to join this. Before we close, I just want to read from the book of Hosea,